Okay, it took me a second to kind of get everything sorted out on this, but I have. I'm actually going to make this smaller so that we can see the screen a little better. Kind of said that I would kind of make a video, explaining how I made the Love Story animation. Give me a second to rework my screen. But yeah, so this is actually the timeline for the Love Story PMV that I made. And as you can see, it's actually a little straightforward. There's a couple layers to the timeline. This is my watermark, so if I turn this off, I have no watermark anymore. That's what this layer is. And this is actually the text that goes. So this right here, if we turn this off, this is like an overlay of text. And that's actually kind of how this entire thing works. Like this, if you actually kind of zoom in on, sorry. If you kind of zoom in on the screen, you'll see there's kind of this rain-looking texture. That's not in the Photoshop document. If you press play, you'll see that it's moving on its own. That's because I had a little video called that's basically just rain, and I blended it into screen mode. But if I take it and put it into normal mode, which is the opacity mode under effects control, you'll see it's just a dark screen. And what screen does is it makes it so that it's everything behind it is visible, and then you can also see these traces of rain. So that's kind of how I got the rain effect. The beginning part is kind of the most impressive part, I would say, of this little animation. So I'm going to focus a little bit on that. This is all based off of a sequence from the Legends of Zelda Link's Awakening video game. I can't remember if this was redone recently, this animation by Nintendo. Let me pull it up. Give me 1 second. Legend of Zelda. But the way this game opens is essentially with a storm. And the audio, I actually grabbed the audio directly from this video. And we're going to actually look at it. So let's switch over to it. So yeah, this is that video. Well, first let's get past the ad. Okay, but I'm not actually gonna play it. We're gonna just kind of skip through it. It opens up with this scene of bubbles coming up, and then waves crashing. So there's the waves. And this is in the game, by the way. This is in the video game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the new animation for the game. I think there was an animation. I don't remember. It's been a while since I played the old version, but the old version isn't quite as colorful as the new version of Link's Awakening. But it starts off with this storm, and Link here is struggling against the storm. And then suddenly, there's lightning in the sky. The next thing you know, water's filling up in the boat. See the water kind of just getting in the boat. And he's just struggling against the weather. There's a flash. And actually, I might have to actually play this part out. But he's struggling against the boat. And his entire boat gets electrocuted. And that leads to the opening sequence of the game. So let's go back to this. I tried to recreate that inside of this video. So you'll see, and I'm actually going to mute the audio for a minute. You'll see the bubbles are coming up. The waves are rising. They crash down. He's in the boat struggling. Now, this obviously isn't as nearly as advanced as what's in the game cutscene, but it's kind of, and here's the water filling up the boat. And then lightning. And I actually make the boat disappear, kind of alluding to the fact that this boat has gone into the dream. I'm gonna mute that now. So the way this entire part was done was actually there, and I'm actually gonna switch over to Photoshop to explain that. So, well, first let me show you my Finder. That's not my Finder. Where's my Finder? Yeah, here's my Finder. Okay, so actually, if you look at my Finder here, which this is just the Mac version of Files, you probably already know that. I've actually got a couple of things, but there's an entire file that I have dedicated to the opening animation in this this thing. So the opening animation's done right here and here. And you can see there are several, and these are all PNGs, by the way. There are several different versions of these bubbles just growing and growing and growing until it transitions into the water scene. And the water scene starts here with just these waves. And there's actually only 9 of these compared to I think there's a lot of the bubbles. I think there's around 17 of the bubbles. And 9 or 10 of the waves. And if we go back to Premiere, I labeled these. If you go back to Premiere, you can actually see this on the timeline. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to scroll down. Here's the timeline. And source. Here's the bubble picture that I just showed you. Let's make it so you can see it a little bit. Oh, see a little better. There is one. All these different bubbles, just kind of zooming in. And beneath it, I actually have this blue background. That way I didn't have to export a ton of the backgrounds. And the thing about this blue background is it's also kind of how I made the rain effect. There's a little bit of flashes that occur. Not the rain, the lightning effect that indicate lightning. And one of the ways I did that is having this different background. I also use this effect where things are cross-dissolving. So if I click on this background, I don't remember how I got it here. I'm actually a little confused. Oh, it's just the cross-dissolve. This is the water rising, though. This is interesting. So this water actually starts up down below. And how I did that is key points. Now these are key points, and you go into effects controls to do this. And the image would be still if not for the fact that right here on the position thing, as you go, I make it go up. Well, actually, to go up is to go down. Going down is going up inside of Premiere, but the picture is going up and it's rising into view, indicating that the water is rising. And I just put all these pictures into one huge sequence. And here's the lightning right here, actually. And then I also used these transitions, like add, dissolve. And transitions can actually be found in the effects folder. And these are like very basic transitions. You don't need fancy transitions to make something look cool. But add, dissolve kind of just overlays the two images in kind of this flashy matter. Whereas cross dissolve is kind of less flashy. And add, dissolve is really good for making that lightning effect that we get whenever the boat disappears. And then it just dips to white with the sound of the storm ending. Like that. And you can see there's actually 2 layers of audio because I want to slowly put in this audio of the song going over the end of the storm, like this. Yeah. And the wind sounds that are in this video actually come from the song. That's actually part of the actual song. The song starts out sounding, and this is kind of what inspired me to make this video. The song kind of starts out sounding kind of like it's underwater. It's muffled by something. If you can kind of hear that. There's like some sort of storm or turmoil, which kind of is what got me into thinking, ooh, this could be interesting. We're actually going to move on to some more interesting parts. Right here, you can see this little symbol. Yeah, this little symbol right here. It's purple while the rest of them are gray. That's because I used something called strobe light to make it. I'm going to mute the music. Make the lights flash in time with the music. And that's just an effect, and you can find that in the effects panel under video effects. So I think it's color correction, or I don't remember which one it is, but these things make it so that you can add little effects. I don't tend to use these, but for this one I did. And then the rest of these are just kind of still images. Like, I didn't need to be complicated. So I'm gonna move over to some more of the more animated stuff. Cause like here, there's 2 PNGs, and I'm gonna pull back up the source. There's 2 PNGs, and then there's the text. The text is a separate layer in this case because I knew I needed to have 2 separate pictures with the same text. And it was just easier to have the text like this and make 2 separate pictures. And I do that a couple times. Other times I just make sure that all these pictures are the same size inside of Photoshop. And once more, in this picture, I do the exact same thing I did with the water earlier. Nothing around makes sense. And you can actually see the yellow indicator saying that, sorry. You can actually see the yellow indicator that says that I've done something. And you can see the little diamonds here that indicate that I've done something. And what this just says is at this point, this little diamond says at this point, the footage must be moved to this exact position. So to make this long one, I actually had to make a Photoshop file that's larger than the normal video. So this is, I think, about a little over half as long, big. Not half as big. 1.5 as big as a normal picture that I would put into this screen right here. And I just told it to slowly drag, and it's going to change this number this time, which means it's going to go left to right or right to left. So I slowly drag it, and you can see this number changing across the string until it gets to the other point. So it starts at point A, and it just moves all the way until it's at point B. The changing of the shadow, so making the shadow appear. So this lizard thing is called the shadow. I'm going to mute. This lizard thing's called the shadow. And this is best actually seen inside the Photoshop file. So we're going to actually switch over to that real quick. And I actually had one Photoshop file for a lot of this. Obviously, I also had like other options. Like if you look in the Finder, there's entire Photoshop files for the opening. This is a taller Photoshop file, but here's the ending of the song. But this is like the main Photoshop file right here. And we have that. And what I did is and there's a lot of layers here. I have several layers just kind of lined up. Some of them are labeled, but after a while I got tired of labeling them. And let me see if I can find the shadow. Because this is the lightning striking the boat, and you can actually see this one is a little divided so that I can have multiple different images and take out the lightning. So here's the lightnings lighting up the area. There's the lightning actually striking, and then I just remove that, and it's just a normal storm. Add it, and now there's lightning. And that's just a really quick flash that indicates that the storm's happening. But with the shadow, yeah, this is a reference image right here. I have a lot of those. Barn on the beach. I don't know where this is. Yeah, some of this is a little lost and confused. Oh wait, this is the opening sequence. That's part of why I can't find it. Give me a minute. Let me find the actual. Let me open it up. Give it a minute. Here we are. There we are. Okay. Another reference image here. Where's the shadow? There's heavy. Here we are. Here's the shadow. So here's our shadow. And I drew him. And I had to actually draw multiple little things to make this work. So first off, I took out the shadow completely, and I started with this, and then I removed a layer, took a picture, removed another layer, took another picture, removed another layer, and took a picture. Then I added this one, where it's kind of less formless, it has less shape. Took a picture. And swapped over to that. Took a picture. Removed. Where are you? Removed that. And then I swapped to this. And this picture right here is actually just this same picture, but I completely blacked it out so that it went alongside this more formless version of the shadow. And all of this turns into, if we go back into the Finder, all of this turns into, let me actually, Finder. All of this turns into a series of photos. So where's the air is heavy? Let's look. Air is heavy right here. It turns into all of these images. Air. I kind of want this little sub menu to be a bit bigger so you can see it. So that you can see it better. There you go. All these little pictures. The air is heavy. It's heavy. It's heavy. There you go. There's your shadow. And you can see that actually on this timeline. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 pictures in total. So when you speed that up, it looks kind of like this. And this is a bit more of a blocky looking animation. And it's not really an animation because it's, well, I guess it could be considered one, but it's just all kind of lined up on the timeline like that. And I kind of did a similar thing with this little bit here where he's walking across and he's ignoring, this guy's Twilight, by the way. He's ignoring Twilight. So this is Legend. This is the focus of our story. And this is Twilight. He's ignoring Twilight. And this is actually, Legend is his own picture. And Twilight is his own picture inside of the Photoshop file. So I have, they're on separate layers is what I'm saying. So I have one version, one layer where Legend's right here. Another layer where Legend's right here. And then I have another layer where he's here. And then I have a completely separate picture of Twilight where Twilight's turned from facing forward to sideways so that he's waving. And then Legend kind of starts to go off screen. And then Twilight's by himself. And then I draw another picture of Twilight, but zoomed in. And that's just, this is a really simple thing. I just had to copy and paste this layer a couple of times. I could have just moved the layer, but I didn't really want to mess with the integrity of each layer whenever I knew I would have to take several pictures. So yeah, that's how he's moving across. This one, like with the heroes, that's the heroes moving, is a much larger picture. It's now taller than wide. So it starts off all the way up, and then I use the keyframes, and you can see the keyframes up here. And these ones are a little more sporadic because of the effect I was going for. You watch it kind of stay where it is. So this entire time it's supposed to stay where it is until it gets here. Then it jerks down, stays where it is, and jerks down a little more, and then stays. So it looks like this. I realize this is going to be a bit of a long video, but if you're interested. And same here. This is a bit of a longer thing. This is actually one image pulled up, and it's dragging down. There's actually a completely different layer for the flower than there is for the backdrop. And the backdrop's moving, and the flower is also moving. And it hits the bottom of the backdrop, and the flower switches to a different image to make it kind of tilt the way it does. This is actually a PNG, so if we kind of remove the blue skies, you'll see that this hand is by itself. And it's not attached to the lyrics, which are right here. The hand's by itself, and it's actually doing the exact same thing that those other pictures were doing, except for instead of changing position, I'm rotating the hand. So each time, and you'll see the number here move. The number moves as it hits each of the different rhombuses. And there it is. And then I put the background back in, and it's just moving through the sky. And I use this background right here a lot. There's, I think, a couple backgrounds that I reuse. One of them being the portal background. There's the blue background. And a few others. And then these are all just still images. This is actually the same image, but I move her closer, and I made the sky a little darker to indicate that it's getting darker. I moved the sun down some. So this is the same image, but slightly adjusted. Same here, same picture, but I kept his facial expressions on a different layer. And then I added hands for whenever he closes his eyes. So it looks like this. So he's a bit distressed. And this is the same picture, except for I also have something in the background here. So I used this cross dissolve effect to have this exact same picture transition into one with this in the background. So it makes it look like that he's approaching something with his lantern. This picture I actually drew for another video. I just changed what text was here because I didn't feel like redrawing this. And same here, same picture, but as the picture moves, I add elements. So it starts with an egg, and then I add the layer where Link is. And it actually probably could look at this in Photoshop. That would be probably better. So let's look at this in Photoshop. Stupid, yeah. Nope. I didn't want all this. So here's our egg. And as you can see, that blue background is completely separate than the egg. Right here is Link. There's Link. So I put Link on. And here's the different cracks. So as it goes, I just add the cracks. And I just take pictures of it. So let's go back over from here. That turns into all these different pictures that the egg is slowly cracking as Link approaches it. Same picture, but I move. And I do that a lot because it's just a little easier. It's like a little shortcut. Same here, same picture, but I colored it over 2 different ways. So the outline's the same, but the colors underneath are different. And I used a special brush to get this little effect on it in Photoshop. I don't remember what brush it was. And then just the same picture, just adding different layers. And using cross dissolve to make it all blend together. Now this one was a bit fun. I actually, in the comic, the shadow has this triangle upside down thing that he's using to make these portals. I don't really know much about it. No one does. It's a mystery to everyone. But I started out making the portal appear, and I actually had already drawn the portal. So I had to make the triangle a little bigger, and by little I mean a lot bigger. Then I kind of make the triangle take on a more portal shape. I give it more portal colors and make it a little bigger. And then I transition to the actual portal I made. And it's very short, but it gets the idea across. And then I have this little guy I drew, and I make him fade it at first, and then I kind of strengthen it so that went to the tune of the music. It kind of goes like this. Yeah. And timing is everything and stuff like this. This little effect is actually 2 pictures that I keep swapping between. So it goes from 1 to 2. 1 to 2. And it makes it look like a candle illuminating the night. So there you go. And I do the same with her version. Just 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Then this one was fun, and I'm actually going to zoom in for this. This I used something called rotoscoping. I found a video of 2 people dancing, and traditionally rotoscoping, I'm pretty sure, is supposed to be done using After Effects, or not some other program than than Photoshop. But I use Photoshop, so instead I took screenshots of each shot that I needed to do the dance. Normally you wouldn't do that, but rotoscoping is done whenever it's a movement that needs to be consistent. I don't know if I kept the reference images. Let me check. I actually had to make a completely separate file for this. And you can see right here, separate file. Here's the dancing animation Photoshop file. This is the acknowledgements. I don't remember if I kept those layers though, because sometimes the layers get muddled. But if you look here, I had to map out, using the rotoscoping method, each picture, and there's actually 9 images. Well, actually there's 10, I think. Yeah, 10 images. And here's the corner one that I do at the end of the thing. But to rotoscope means that I just do a little outline of each image that I've taken a screenshot of people dancing from the video of the people dancing. And I do an outline, and I do the rough outline until I have all the positions that they should be in for each shot. Yeah, she's behind him, so I didn't bother drawing her face. This is actually a very crude way of drawing people. I made this in a week, so I didn't really feel like going all out on drawing people. But once I got it down, I drew one. I then added actual details to the outlines. And I wish I kept the outlines because I didn't realize I was going to make a video of this, but here we are now. And slowly it makes it seem like they are doing a little circle with each other. And the reason why these two are separate is because she's supposed to disappear at the end. I'm going to go back to Premiere. So I actually had to do this a couple of times around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then she disappears. Which is why that's a separate layer. So 1 picture, 2 picture, 3 picture, 4 picture, 5 picture, 6 picture, 7 picture, 8 picture, 9 picture, 10 picture, 11 picture, disappears. So it looks like this in total. And it's very blocky. Typically, if you want a smoother animation, the more pictures you have that are more consistent with each other, the smoother the animation is. But like I said, I made this in a week, so this is very rough. I will also say that I'm not an expert at animation. I was never taught to animate. This is just stuff I figured out on my own. And this is like 2 pictures again, so I started with this picture and then I drew everyone else. And my gosh, was this a picture to draw. Because I had to fit 9 different... I ended up making Twilight into a wolf, because Twilight can turn into a wolf. I ended up making Twilight into a wolf because I'm going to be honest. Drawing another person here might have filled up the space here, but I really wanted to show off that this guy, Hyrule, his name's Hyrule, had fire. And once more, I'm using this very rudimentary way of drawing them because typically when you're doing full color like this, it's a lot harder, but I really like the full color look, so I use a very rudimentary way of drawing the full color look so that, I think rudimentary is the right word, wait. We're going to take a short break for me to look up the word rudimentary. Rudimentary. Yeah, basic. It's a very basic way of drawing in Photoshop. Literally because typically if it's not just a series of outlines or a series of like sketches strung together, then it's going to take 10 times longer. So instead I kind of focused more on the color than I did. I had outlines and then I colored the outlines, and it's very I don't think this would be the recommended way to typically draw anything, but that's how we did it because it was faster to do that way if I was gonna do full color. This is just the portal effect again. And this one was fun because I actually had to have 4 different layers once more. So there are 4 different pictures. And he actually gets bigger because I'm trying to indicate that he got older. So he starts young. He gets the Triforce, so that's a different picture. His sword changes into the Gilded Master Sword. And he starts to get some pink in his hair because he's been messing with the magic that turns him into a rabbit. He turns into a rabbit, by the way, if you don't know. And he gets older, and he's now in the tunic that you see him in for the rest of for the majority of the video where it's not flashbacks. And his hair turns pink because he messed with that magic a little bit more in the comic. Then I just zoomed really in on that portal that I drew earlier and faded it into this campsite. I had to look up pictures of what old-fashioned war campsites look like because Hyrule Warriors, they don't really show you campsites outside of the little shopping area in the game. So I made my own version of the campsite. And this is very basic. This picture sucked. Okay, so any picture where all 9 of the links appear was a pain. And then I also had to draw this dude right here, this random guard, to kind of show that it's Warriors. This is Warriors timeline. And then I drew Impa. This is Impa. And Zelda as well. And these two have really cool designs, but they are so complicated. And I, for some wild reason, decided that these two should be facing the camera. These people were far away enough that I justified not giving them faces. And these guys were looking at the camera, but these two are looking at the camera, kind of. So I had to actually draw their faces. At this point, I just wanted to get the idea of what was going on here. So I didn't make the picture overly complicated. You just need to get the idea that he sees her outside, she's walking. And then he turns. And this is a completely different picture than this one and this one. These two are like in a similar wavelength, and this is a completely new image. Same with right here. This is the same picture, I just move her. And then I reused a bunch of pictures throughout the video so we can... I could have used Add to Dissolve. Instead, I just elected to use the white overlay to make my own transition effect. And then once more, we're going back to using the movement thing. But instead of just moving the bird, we're also making the bird bigger to show that the bird's getting closer. So this bottom number gets bigger because the bird's getting a little bigger as it's moving across the screen. And it turns into her. This is one picture. So the background of this is the same for both of these pictures. There's actually 2 guys here, and they're kind of telling stories in the background. I spent way too much time drawing these 2 guys in the background. But they're kind of just sitting there telling a story. And then these 2 are doing a little hug. I also have Warriors here. He's the same in the background in both pictures. Except for he switches from having an exclamation mark to a question mark. Because he's a little confused. He came out to see what the heck made this guy just run out of the war room tent so quickly. And there's a little hug. And then it fades to black. And I did the corner. And you can see just how many pictures I had to do for the ending of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I don't actually know. I'm not sure how I'm trying to count this. But it goes round and round, making this little effect. Some dancing in the corner. This was easy though because I already had the pictures already rotoscoped out, and I just put them in the bottom right corner and put the text above it. And there you go. That's how I made all the little animations in this little video. And it's really quite interesting. Sorry this turned out to be so long.